Hello, Broncos country, and welcome to the season's first Orange Weekly After Dark. My name is Jason. I will be with you tonight. As usual, as we've done over the years and into this season, feel free to start posting those comments, questions, whatever you want to say, and we will try to scroll through them all. You guys have been pretty active lately, which has been awesome. So we'll try to get to them. But again, post that stuff. We got lots to talk about, lots of good, a little bit of bad. But hey, first season's Victory Monday, which can't go wrong with that. So, Travis, thanks for joining us tonight. I am great. It's a great Monday when the Broncos win. So can't complain about that. Before we dive into the great things that we saw yesterday, and I think there are a lot of great things, let's get the bad out of the way first. Rip the Band-Aid off, and then we can get into the fun stuff. The worst news, which actually turned out to be a bit better than initially thought, Jerry Jeudy has been ruled out for minimum 4 weeks with a high ankle sprain. X-rays did come back negative for any fractures, which good and bad. It's obviously good it wasn't any kind of major fracture that requires surgery, in which case we're talking minimum half the season done, if not longer than that. But the high ankle sprain is good and bad, right? It's not a fracture. It's not going to require surgery. It sounds like it's a grade 1, a low level high ankle sprain, which is the good part. The issue is these are the type of sprains you hear about that can be nagging for an athlete, especially a skilled position, especially someone like Jerry Jeudy, who basically his bread and butter is his footwork, right? It's how he gets so open. His hands obviously are good, but we had issues with that last year. His red zone route running isn't fantastic because he has a harder time separating because the distance is so small, but it's that quick footwork that he has that's arguably the best in the league. And so I'll be interested, as we get into the season, once he's back in the lineup, how that affects him, if it does, if it doesn't. I wouldn't be too terribly surprised if it does take him down a notch for the rest of the season. But we'll have to see. Again, he's out for minimum 4 weeks. I would expect him to go on the IR with the new IR rules where there isn't a cap to how many you can pull back from the IR. And since he's out for at least 4 weeks and IR, you need to be out for at least 3 weeks, makes sense to put him on IR to open another spot. Which gets to, Cody's comment here. And Cody, thank you for joining. Who will replace Jeudy? That's a good question. One of the bright spots that the Broncos have this season, I believe, is their depth at wide receiver. I don't think they're hurting in the wide receiver area. So who they bring up, I'm not too sure. I'm not sure what their plans are. I haven't heard too much of it today, but maybe something got through that I didn't pick up on as far as news on what their plan is, but it'll be interesting to see. At the end of the day, again, I think this is still a deep wide receiver core. We still have Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick, Hamler, who hopefully doesn't drop an easy touchdown pass that's thrown right into his chest again. And then Noah Fant, I think, was pretty impressive as well. So, our tight end position on the receiving end of things are pretty solid too. So, it's going to be tough to not have Jeudy for at least 4 weeks. I'm guessing it's probably going to be the longer side. It's probably closer to the 6 week mark, if I had to guess. So I would plan for 6 weeks without Jeudy. And so what their plan is, I don't know off the top of my head. It'll be interesting to see, though. They've got some time to figure it out. But I would expect announcement to be made fairly soon as they try to get ready for Jacksonville this next week. So that's kind of the rough news there. Again, Jeudy being out for at least 4 weeks, likely closer to 6, with possible season-long implications of it being a nagging injury. We'll see. But other than that, I saw a lot of great things from the Broncos yesterday. And some more good news from Neil. Thank you for the update. Raiders down by 7 with 6 minutes left. Let's hope the Ravens can pull off that win. Seeing as the Chargers and Chiefs both managed to come back in their games to win. So at least, if the Raiders were to go down, they would be the first team in the AFC West to lose this year. So that would be another good thing for sure. Especially it's going to be, I think, a pretty tight AFC race. Obviously, the Chiefs have the betting odds and all of that, but I think what we saw yesterday, a pretty dominant defense, but then they had some miscues for sure. But you're going to have those week one, especially with a fairly new secondary, working together and new playbook and all of that. So again, you're going to have those miscues, but overall, I think our defense was very impressive. Our pass rush, which was said to be beat up going into this game against the Giants, they were impressive. Von Miller looked vintage Von Miller, which is a very exciting and great thing to see. In fact, there was a picture going around where he had outrun their pass protection so bad that two Giants players ended up blocking each other. Again, vintage Von. So that was a very encouraging sign to see. So, with all those great things on defense, if Teddy Bridgewater can keep being Teddy Bridgewater week one, Broncos have a legit chance to at least stay competitive in that AFC title discussions. Now, again, and here's where I'm kind of getting to. Can we beat KC? I don't know. I don't know right now. I would say I'm much more confident that we're able to at least take one game from them this year than I was a few weeks ago. And again, it's going to come down to, can we play like we did against the Giants? And yes, the Giants are not the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't think anyone's going to say that, but their defense isn't anything to scoff at. Their offense is not fantastic by any means, so it made our life a little bit easier on defense to kind of work out some of those kinks. And so, Patrick Mahomes is obviously the better quarterback than Daniel Jones. So I was going to argue that. Yes, the Kansas City Chiefs have a much more dynamic offense, but the Browns were competitive against them. And I think the Browns are a great team this year too. But I think the Browns were picking apart the defense pretty well up until the end of the game when they just needed some points to win. But hey, Browns are going to Brown. So, so can we beat Kansas City? To be determined. I need a larger sample size than one game. I'm not a huge fan of week one overreactions. If week one is such a crapshoot sometimes, and, you find out some things about teams that you didn't know going in the season. You find some early season flukes, is Green Bay going to score only 3 points every game this season? No chance. Are the Titans really going to lose every game this season? No way. Are the Texans really going to win their division, which they're sitting on top of right now? I would say no way. And so it's tough to say these things after week one. But again, the things I did see, there's a lot of encouraging things. As Daniel said, yes, very fun to watch. Again, welcome, guys. This is the season's first Orange Weekly After Dark. Keep posting your comments and questions. I'll try to get to them. Ian, thanks for joining us. It was a nice one to celebrate last night. A few little cracks will need ironing out, but something looking good. Exactly, yeah. Week one, you're going to have those small issues, and I think that they were. I think we made 2 coverage mistakes that led to big gains on defense and offense. A couple of miscues. You had the fumble towards the goal line that likely would have ended in a touchdown drive. You had Hamler dropping what was probably the easiest catch he will be able to catch all season in the end zone with a beautiful throw by Teddy Bridgewater, which, by the way, all those people saying that he can't throw past 20 yards, he proved you wrong on that pass. It's just Hamler, for whatever reason, decided not to catch the ball on that one. But again, a lot of things looking good. I think our running back tandem is pretty exciting, actually. I really liked what I saw. There was some talk for a little bit that, Gordon might not be looking like our number one running back anymore. And as soon as that talk started running up, Gordon decides to break out a 75-yard touchdown run, something insane like that. So, a lot of good things again. And it's exciting. It's exciting. I would make the argument here that the quarterback performance we saw yesterday from Teddy Bridgewater was the best single game quarterback performance that we have seen since Peyton Manning. I would even maybe go as far as to argue the best single game quarterback performance we've seen since the season before Manning retired. Because I'm sure, as all you know, as great as Manning was and is and all that, his last season wasn't exactly spectacular. And you had the few weeks of the injury where we had to deal with Osweiler, and they got the job done that year for sure. Got us the number 1 seed and the Super Bowl. But if we're talking single game performances, that was pretty phenomenal by Bridgewater. Some say that he's too safe. Well, I think he proved everyone wrong. I think he made some fantastic throws. Again, I think that bomb to Hamler was an absolutely gorgeous pass. It's a shame Hamler dropped that, because that would have been highlight reel easily. But I think his ability to extend plays is something we have not seen in a while, especially with Drew Lock. Nothing against Drew Lock, but one of the common and fair critiques of Lock was his tendency to panic with the slightest bit of pressure. He would see a flash of a jersey that wasn't his team's, and he would make very poor decisions, whether that was just, quickly thrown away, throwing the ball up for a jump ball where it would be intercepted, whatever it was. Bridgewater, I think, clearly showed he's able to stay calm under pressure. And that is something you cannot coach at this level. You're either able to stay calm under pressure or you're not when you're in the NFL. The game's just too fast if you try to coach a quarterback to stay calm under pressure. And I think that's an area that Drew Lock really lacks in. And, I think that was something that Bridgewater really brings to the table, is that calmness, the steady Teddy, right? That we keep hearing it. And so, everyone who was freaking out when they made that decision to start Bridgewater, I think saw Bridgewater in a much new light than what they were maybe either hearing just through the media or seeing through their own eyes of wanting Lock to start. Because I get it, going with Bridgewater, you're basically admitting that we had another flawed draft pick at the quarterback position, cementing that John Elway could not draft a quarterback. So I get that part's painful, but I'd rather that little bit of a painful fact if, Bridgewater is going to do the job this year. And I think with the defense we have, which I think absolutely has a potential to be a top 5 defense, if not potentially the number 1 defense. At that point, you need a quarterback who is smart, can move the ball, make good decisions, and not turn it over. And I think that's what we got at Bridgewater yesterday. Maybe not anything super spectacular, minus that touchdown that I keep bringing up that Ian, like all of us, was probably crying a little. It was just such a beautiful pass. But I think that's what we get out of Bridgewater. It is a quarterback who gets the job done. And that's all we need. We don't need as much as great as it would have been. We don't need an Aaron Rodgers this year to be a playoff team. I really don't think so. I think with our defense, we need a quarterback who doesn't turn over the ball, makes smart choices with the ball, and is able to extend plays. The 2 scrambles he had, I think were great. One was on 4th down. I believe the other one was on 3rd down, very, very early in the second half. I think that is what's needed out of our quarterback position for this year. So exciting stuff to see. I saw that he had the highest QBR of any quarterback in week 1, which is equally exciting. And again, the Giants defense isn't anything to scoff at. No, they're not going to be the best defense we see this year, but they're certainly not going to be the worst. And so I think it's also encouraging that we play Jacksonville and the Jets the next couple of weeks. Don't want to fall into trap games early, but shoot, I mean, there's no way that on paper, Jacksonville or the Jets are a better team than the Giants. And again, each week is its own challenge each week is its own game you have to show up on. That's the NFL. You can't take any games off and expect to win in the NFL. But at the same time, there's really no excuse that the Broncos aren't 3-0 after the next couple of weeks here. So we'll see. Let's see. Try to get some more of your comments here, guys. Thanks for joining me tonight. Blake, thank you. Do you think Javonte Williams will get more playing time? I think they had a really good dynamic going between Williams and Gordon. I think they had a good tandem going. I wouldn't mind seeing them. They were basically, I could be wrong. I need to look it up, or someone wants to look it up for me to double check. But I believe they were pretty much 50-50 in terms of carries. And I like that. I think it keeps both of them fresh. It keeps both of them healthier as the season goes on. So, week 16, week 17, you don't have a worn down running back who's just been the workhorse for the entire season. And I think both of them looked pretty solid. I was very impressed with Williams. I thought he did a really good job seeing the field, finding the openings, making the quick cuts to go north versus just east-west. He impressed me for sure. But again, Gordon showed his big playability and with that long touchdown run that basically sealed the game at that point. The Giants had a little chance to come back at that point anyways, but basically, seal the deal. So I don't know if I would say I think he'll get more. I expect it to continue to be a 50-50 split. So we'll see how that continues to go. Followed up by how did Patrick Surtain do? And I believe Ian's right. He got pulled shortly after missing a tackle, which led to the first TD. And again, you're going to have that. You're going to have your rookie mistakes. You're going to have your miscommunications, your errors week one. You just hope it doesn't cost the game. And in this case, it didn't. So, learning lesson. I think he's going to continue to grow. I wouldn't worry about him. These first few weeks are the time to iron those out. With the Broncos schedule, you're going to be able to make a couple mistakes and get away with it as long as you're smart the rest of the game. So let them make those mistakes, pull them if needed, coach them through it. Because, it's going to be the games, the Chiefs, obviously. I think the Chargers even have a pretty dynamic offense. It's going to be those games that you need him to play big and need him to know his assignments, know his role. So you still got some time, but you need to coach him through it for sure. Back to Ian. Without sounding overconfident, we should be able to beat Jax and New York Jets based on what I saw yesterday. And I agree, without sounding overconfident. Again, each week is going to have its own challenges. Each week, the team you're facing is going to have their own set of strengths and weaknesses. You don't want to fall into trap games early on. You don't want to start thinking about the Jets before you play the Jaguars. But I agree. I don't think there's an excuse to not win the next two games. If we lose one of the next two games, it's going to be entirely on the Broncos. What did they do wrong? What mistakes were made, and how do we correct this course very, very quickly? Because that's not something you can afford to do. One, in a season where you're going to be basically every game towards the end of the season with the division we're in is going to matter. But also, that's what good football teams do. They dominate their bad opponents. And that's what we saw yesterday with the Giants. That's what I expect to see the next 2 weeks. If you're a playoff caliber team, you beat bad teams bad. That's what it comes down to. You don't skate by. You don't barely win on a last second field goal against really bad teams. And the next 2 weeks, we're playing two really bad teams. And so we should be winning those for sure. So again, don't want to get ahead of ourselves, one game at a time. First one against Jacksonville. However, it's a game we should be heavily favored, especially if they play like they did just this past week here. Sutton can make it up with a pick six. Again, both sides of the ball had good games. Had a good game. I was impressed with both sides again. If I had to give the edge, I would give the edge to the offense, actually, which I don't think we're going to say too often. They made a couple mistakes too, a fumble. That sure, the final ruling on that was pretty questionable too. I thought the Giants player had his knee out of bounds when he recovered that football. However, you don't drop the ball in the first place, right? If you don't fumble the ball, you don't force the refs to make a bad decision. But I think our offense played a very strong, balanced game, which is, again, something we haven't been able to say lately, is a good balanced attack between our run and our passing. I think the play calling was fantastic too. The decision making, the coaching staff, I don't think is getting enough credit either. I think the play calling on offense was really solid across the board. Again, smart play calling, situational football. And how about Vic Fangio? Yeah, he's on the hot seat. Yeah, he's never won a game in September until yesterday. So he's feeling the pressure, feeling the heat. But to go for it on those early fourth downs, I think were really turning points. Would have been nice to get a touchdown on that first field goal we had to settle for. But, went for it again on our one touchdown. On one of the touchdowns, where Bridgewater had to extend the play. And that, that's, you don't see that too much in the NFL anymore, of those very, I'll call it courageous. Some people might have other words for it, but courageous decisions on fourth down there. And I think that was really a big turning point in the game, was that touchdown coming off that fourth down conversion there. So back to Blake. Do you know if we will get Bradley Chubb back? So this is the thing with injuries too, guys. And this is part of why I expect Jerry Jeudy to miss further down the timeline, more on the 6-week time frame than the 4-week, is you really have to consider your schedule, the longevity of the injury, and what situation you're in. So Bradley Chubb, he was questionable before this game. And I think I would be willing to say if this was a week 17 game, you win, you're in the playoffs, he absolutely would have been in. However, week 1 against a team that you should beat, why force it? Why rush him back into playing, which could set him back for another 3-4 weeks and possibly have further setbacks down the road. So in terms of this week, I don't know. He's going to be listed as questionable, I'm sure. And ultimately, the coaching staff and the medical staff are going to come together and make that decision with Bradley Chubb, I'm sure. I'm sure Bradley Chubb wants to play. He's saying he's ready to play. I'm sure he's very anxious and wants to get back out there, and I get that. He's a competitor. So I'm sure the medical staff, coaching staff will come to a decision based on what's the best approach, what's the best strategy. If they feel he's going to go out there and won't make things worse, I would fully expect to see him out there. If there's still kind of it's still kind of healing, may or may not make it worse. We're playing Jacksonville. Our defense did fine without him against the Giants, so we should do fine without him against Jacksonville. We should do fine without him against the Jets. I'm leaning towards resting the guy. It's easy from my standpoint because I'm not the one having to make that decision, because that is a big decision to make, holding out one of your better pass rushers. And there's an argument too, maybe we put him in against the Jets so we can start, getting the feel of the game back before being thrown into a big game where we're asking him to play in big down situations. But this is pure speculation on my part. Don't hold any weight to it. I would say he's out for this next week. Again, I don't see the need to rush him back and risk injuring it against the Jaguars, right? Again, I think there's an argument against the Jets, put him in there. Maybe not necessarily on a pitch count against the Jets, but, monitoring him, seeing how he's handling the workload against the Jets. It's basically his warm-up game before we go into week 4. But it's just, and going back to Jerry Jeudy, that's why I expect him to be more on the 6-week timeline with a nagging injury like a high ankle sprain. It's very in the season. Hopefully we can get out to a 3-0 start. If we get out to a 3-0 start, I don't see the need to rush him back for week 4 or week 5. And again, that's not my decision to make. I won't be the one seeing the imaging, seeing his progression, doing his rehab. That's all on the medical staff to determine that part of it. But this early in the season, when you're able to get out to a good start, you're able to be a bit more conservative with your injury management to hopefully be in a better shape the back half of the season. That's the goal, right? You don't want to be going into the playoffs super banged up, beat up, injuries that have been nagging players all season long. You want to take advantage where you're able to. Bye week is obviously the biggest one to take advantage of that teams will constantly do. And that's one where the Broncos were screwed last year, losing our bye week last year through no real fault of their own. So the bye week is a big one. And then these situations you find yourself in, you got to try to take advantage of well. So we'll see. Couple of updates for you joining me. We got a couple of helpers here. So Ian says Baltimore is 27-24 with 37 seconds remaining. And Raiders down by 3 with 30 seconds. So keep us updated here. Again, it'd be great to see those teams, to see that game end that way. Seeing the Raiders go down to start the season would be great. So I'll be with you for a few more minutes here tonight. But again, overall, very impressive performance from the Broncos. I think there's a lot to be excited about. Again, I'm not big into week one overreactions. So I won't say the overreactions that I think could take place. However, sorry, reading Ian's comment here. Finished work in time to catch the first quarter. There you go. So I would say that this is an exciting team that very well could be, and I would argue should be, a playoff team this year. How far they get in the playoffs, if they're a wild card team, if they get in the second round, I don't know. I think we need a bigger sample size to really come to realistic conclusions with that. So we'll wait and see. But I'm very encouraged. I'm very optimistic about this team. I think there's a lot to be excited about for sure. And with that, we'll wait until the end of the Raiders game before we get into the great segment of Orange Weekly After Dark that we installed a couple years ago following Broncos victories only, which is, of course, is the Orange Weekly After Dark Mile High Salute. So we'll wait till after the game so you guys can chime in and give me your Mile High salutes as well for this game. But again, lots to be confident about, lots to be excited about. I'm pretty pumped about Teddy Bridgewater. I think he has potential to be turning some heads this season. Is every game going to go as seamlessly and smoothly as yesterday for him? Probably not. I expect him, just like any other athlete in any other sport, he's going to have a couple of rough games, but hopefully in those games, our defense are able to bail him out. And hopefully if our defense has a bad game here and there, he's able to bail them out. That's something we haven't been able to do since the Peyton Manning era, is, being able to have our offense bail our defense out. But I think with the balanced approach that our offense has between our run game, pass game, and, Bridgewater kind of conducting it all, I think there's a lot to be confident about for sure. So, all right, guys, we're winding down on time for tonight. So we're going to go ahead and get to tonight's Mile High Salute. Oh man, it's about okay. OT after a 55-yard field goal. Thanks for that update. So we're going to do our Mile High salutes, and then I'm going to let you guys go so you can hopefully finish watching that OT game. For me, I think a lot of people might pick Bridgewater. I'm going to go with Vic Fangio. I think his decision-making was absolutely phenomenal. He had great situational awareness, great situational coaching, which is something that some people have been critiquing him on. I think he's been a pretty solid coach for the most part. And I think yesterday he really played to his strengths, played to his team's strengths. And I think that's a large reason why the Broncos were able to get momentum multiple times and multiple momentum swings and able to finish off the game there. So again, lots to be excited about, guys. Don't forget to tune in for the rest of the content this week. Again, we've got a lot of stuff coming at you, just like seasons past. Our main show, tomorrow o'clock, 7 o'clock. Be sure to tune in for that. We've got podcasts coming at you, pregame, postgame, all that fun stuff. So halftime hashes, all that. So Stay tuned. Please share our page with other Broncos fans that you might know. Raiders fans, if you think that they need to follow a legit a football team. Any way you guys can help, much appreciated. It's something that we do for you guys because it's fun for us. The more fan interaction we get, the better it is. We hate just the sounds of our own voice constantly going on with no feedback, with no communication, with no anything like that. So give us a share, give us a like, give us a rate, all that fun stuff that you normally hear. Otherwise, tune in for the rest of the week of stuff coming at you. Appreciate you guys. Happy to be back for another season of Orange Weekly After Dark. With all of that being said, not only let's go Ravens for tonight, hopefully they can put the Raiders away, but as always, let's go Broncos.